Hey, welcome to part 2 of our game character tutorial. In this video, part 2, what I would like to do next is shape this into something a little more exciting than just kind of a default pose that we got from ZBrush. So one of the things I see right away is if I go out of the perspective mode and hold down the shift key and snap my keys, I can see that the feet are actually looking kind of funky. They don't really look like they are straight, at least on my end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my move tool and press X on my keyboard to make sure my active symmetry is on, and I'm just going to adjust the feet to make sure that they look like he's actually standing on the ground. Just a simple quick adjustment. So once I do that, the next step that I would like to talk to you about is the overall shape. So there are many different references that we could use to adjust the shape of the character. Right now you can see the silhouette of what he looks like, and it looks pretty good, but I want to make my character a little more stylized. So for that I'm going to jump to ArtStation to just look at a couple references. Alright, so here I am in ArtStation, and one of the references that I pulled up is from a 3D artist named George Zaki, and I really enjoy the shape of this silhouette. So in his ArtStation he's saying that this was a study and he was experimenting, but when I'm looking at this is pretty much exactly what I was going for. I like the sharp edges, and I love the overall feel of the mass of the character. So what I would like to do is actually use this as a reference, maybe for kind of a general shape of our character as well. And the other thing that I want to mention is we are going to need some good references for the actual detailed muscle as well. So for that I also looked up another artist, and his name is Daniel Joldoshbek. I probably butchered his name, but this is what it looks like. And if I actually click on the artist, you can see that this is clearly a very experienced artist with some really good understanding of human anatomy, right? So I want to make sure I give credit where it's due. But for our muscles, I would like to reference this image to kind of see where how the muscles actually look. That's a little more realistic, right? So let's just first adjust the shape of our character, which is going to be from this. So I'm going to leave this up just like this, and I'm going to jump into ZBrush. Alright, so the cool thing about ZBrush, I don't know how many of you guys use this, but there is something called a see-through window transparency slider right up here. And if you dial this down, you can see what is behind ZBrush, right? So because I left that character reference behind, I can actually hold on the Alt key and just kind of adjust my guy over the other artist. And let's look at them side by side. And while this is cool, this is clearly a much more intimidating shape, right? This looks like his older brother, right? If he was especially a little smaller, this definitely seems like a guy you wouldn't want to mess around with. Versus this looks like a kind of a healthy looking male. So let's see if we can change this and maybe adjust this just a little bit to kind of mimic the other shape, right? So what I'm going to do for that is I'm still in my move tool. I'm going to make it kind of large. My active symmetry is on, and I'm literally just going to see if I can adjust my character to match his just a little more. So maybe expand the chest, I'm gonna widen the base. The legs are much thicker. So let's do the same thing with the calves. And I know I'm probably gonna mess up the feet a little bit, but I am looking to make them a little thicker as well. So this is already feeling a little better to me. Maybe we can do the same thing with the forearms. Look at the forearm of the reference. It's really very strong, right? I know that this is not looking nice, but we can always fix this later. So it's already a little bit closer to what I was wanting to achieve with my character. So I'm gonna go ahead and dial this back down to 0. And now since I have this in place, let's go ahead and keep adjusting it to now make it look good, right? Right now this looks completely ridiculous. So using my move tool still, I'm just gonna begin to kind of inflate the character. And give him some thickness. Alright, so of course there's many different ways of doing this, and this is just one way of achieving something. So let's you can use the move brush, you can also use the inflate brush as well, make it kind of small. You can adjust the intensity of your ZBrush, maybe turn it down to like 5 and just begin to gradually blow up part of the mesh that holding on the shift key, of course you can smooth this out, but maybe because we're still in a subdivision level 1, is gonna smooth out a lot, so be careful there. I can grab my move tool, adjust the feet, and you can see how I'm just slowly adjusting the overall shape to feel a little more, what's the word I'm looking for, heroic, maybe a little more kind of bodybuilding like, right? So I'm liking how this is feeling. This is pretty cool. From the back, the arms clearly need more inflation. So let's pump up his shoulders, his biceps, his forearm. Looks crazy. I'm gonna give him more forearm, the elbow, the triceps. And the hands overall look really tiny to me. So let's see if we can scale them up, or we can attempt to inflate them as well. So maybe make them a little thicker and just move them out a little. I don't really want the fingers touching too much, so holding on the shift key you can smooth this back down. Because for rigging, we definitely want to make sure that the skin is kind of, the fingers are separate, right? All right, I'm not liking some of this here. All right, I think this is feeling pretty good. Maybe bring this down. When I bring this down, it seems like the shoulders have a little more impact, which I like. All right, another thing we could do is let's go ahead and turn off the eyes for now, and let's take a look at his face. So one of the things we can do is kind of customize the face a little more. So maybe give him kind of a serious look, maybe the eyes. It feels like I know it's stylized, but it does feel like this part is a little too intense. When you make smaller head, when you make the head a little smaller, it feels like the body is even stronger, right? Especially in stylized characters. So let's go ahead and adjust the ears. I don't really want them to be sticking out. We can figure out the expression on his face. So my guy is definitely going to be kind of serious, like almost like a fighter, right? So I'm going to give him kind of a little bit of a mean face. Give him strong jaw. And we can see how this feels. Another thing we can do is maybe make the nose a little straighter. Maybe he's like a fighter, so he's got kind of he's been hit a few times, you know what I mean? This neck here could be a little thicker, and it feels like this is a little all right. So this is I'm kind of liking this as the base. Maybe pull this down a little. All right, so you can already see a big difference between what we had and kind of this new form or new shape, right? So I can actually push this in a little more, maybe make it even more kind of heroic. Maybe push the back a little more. And if you want to see the difference between what we had initially, let me, feels like the knee's a little too thick. Again, this is just the base mesh, right, before we sculpt the detail. But if you want to look at the difference, you can grab this history slider and just dial this down and see how dramatically different the result is. So this was the beginning base mesh that we got from ZBrush. And starting from here, we went and definitely dramatically changed how the character feels, right? So I think that this is a really good start to go ahead and subdivide our character and move to the next stage where we can add more detail. And as I showed you before, I actually am going to use this as a reference for the muscles. And let's go ahead and look at our geometry. So I am going to press Ctrl D And you can see I just went to subdivision level 2 and I'm at 51,000 points. Level 1 is kind of our base, right? The base, which is at 12,000. So let's go ahead and keep going. I'm going to do Control D one more time. I'm at 200,000. I'm going to do it again. And I am subdivided 4 times with 817,000 points. And I think this is going to be enough to begin sculpting some detail for our characters. So for this part, I'm actually going to grab my tablet and let's just begin to kind of add a little more detail to this guy. All right, so for that, I think I'm going to grab my, let's start with the standard brush. All right, and I think I'll just start with the chest and just start kind of building the chest a little more. Now you can leave the material as this white one, or of course there's other options. I think I got this poly skin one from ZBrush Central, I believe. Sometimes you can play around with different materials and see which one will show you, you know, better results. So for this, I do like this one because I could see which parts I need to smooth out and which are kind of, you know, which ones are maybe kind of blobby. So just using the standard brush, I can just start building this up. So looking here, I can see that we need to emphasize his belly. So something like this. If something gets too bumpy, you can always grab your trim dynamic and you can always flatten it a little bit and then smooth it. So that will give you nice results. So it doesn't look too, you know, too bumpy. And it's also a cool way to add kind of a stylized feel to the character. Another thing I like to do is always play around with the shape, so you can maybe we can adjust the chest a little bit. All right, I'm liking the chest. Maybe we can give him a little, I'm not sure if I'm gonna do the belly button, honestly, because this is gonna be kind of a tight suit. Again, almost like a Spider-Man kind of thing. So I do want some detail, but I don't want it to be too much detail, right? So obviously if you put on a suit, you're not gonna have or see your you know, belly button, right? Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to the legs. So for the legs, we have kind of this front muscle, then we have these muscles on the side. Let's go ahead and smooth it. So then we have kind of the knee. So let's make that a little more pronounced. For the knee, I'm looking, there's a muscle kind of up here, and maybe we have one on each side. We can smooth this out. All right, moving down, you kind of have kind of the line here, right? And going on the back, you sort of have two muscle groups here. So let's make them a little more pronounced. We can smooth this out. And we can always also grab our move tool if we want to adjust this a little more. But I do like, I do want to have kind of a larger calf. I think that's important for our superhero. So I'm pretty happy with this. Let's go ahead back to our standard brush and just kind of give them, I'm looking at this area here. And you have muscle here for the tush. Just kind of, if you hold on the Alt key, you can kind of press this in. So you kind of have this area here. Hold on the Shift to smooth this out, Alt to push it in. Then we have kind of a muscle here. For the back, our base mesh already kind of has some definitions, which is nice. But we can add a little more, right, by looking at our reference. So we have kind of two muscles. I'm looking here, so you have kind of a 1, 2, 3. I'm not the best at anatomy, but I don't think you need to be. I think we just need to kind of fake it just enough where it feels like there's something there. So this this right here makes sense. I do want to have kind of a large shoulder. Now, if you look at the shoulder, there's also 3 segments on the shoulders. So you have kind of the top, the side here, and kind of one here. And just keep smoothing this out. For the bicep, we do have this nice solid bicep in front. So this is an important piece. All right, and then for the forearm, I'm seeing you're gonna have these segments running down the forearm, right? So let's just add some lines there. And I do want to give him a nice strong elbow. All right, so I think this is feeling pretty good. I do want to make sure that my arm doesn't feel too feminine and too weak, right? So I want to make sure that it's kind of in proportion to his body. So make sure that is in relationship to the rest. And then let's look at the side here. So for the side, we have kind of these muscles here, and then they kind of stack up into each other. So you have like a that actually, I'm gonna undo this. That doesn't look right. I'm gonna make this a little smaller and just do like something like this. And again, I can grab my trim dynamic and flatten them out if I feel like they're a little too bumpy, right? So again, I'm trying to look at this as though he's wearing a tight suit, right? So I'm not actually looking at a body with just the muscles. So I think to me, for what I'm trying to do, this makes sense. Like this would be a good look for like a kind of a superhero Spider-Man suit kind of thing, right? I do like. I think I'm pretty happy with this. Let's go ahead and stop here. And what I'm gonna do is for part 3, don't worry, I'm just gonna share my model with you guys. If someone out there is doing better than this, then obviously keep going with your version. But if someone is maybe struggling or experimenting, you're new, whatever the reason is, for the next part, I'm just gonna give you what I have, so we are all kind of on the same page. But this is where I'm going to stop part 2, and in the next part, let's go ahead and add even more detail. But the next part of the detail is going to be more of a suit kind of detail, right? So we could start drawing maybe some lines, some stitching, and maybe even smooth out some of this even more, and keep going from there. Just so you guys know, just so we're all on the same page, for this character specifically, what I'm thinking of is giving him a tight suit, maybe like a dark color with some cool lines, maybe some, I don't know, I don't have a reference, I'm totally just freestyling this, kind of a electrical blue lines, you know, maybe with blue, I don't know, electrical blue eyes. Give him crazy flowing hair, and maybe even give him a trench coat. Why not, right? So that's sort of where I'm at right now. All right, so I spent a few more minutes just adjusting a few things. One of the things I like to do actually is if I grab the pinch tool, you can see that I added some sharp edges to just key pieces or key parts of the model. So just a little bit here, a little bit right here, and you can see a couple sharp lines on his chest and his biceps, and I feel like it adds kind of a stylized feel to the character, and just a personal artistic choice. So another thing that I did is I spent just a couple more minutes sculpting the face a little more, so just it feels like it's not just a generic default face, but maybe it has some kind of a story behind it, a little more fighter-like, right? So I did that, and then added a couple of sharp lines here, and you can see some here as well. Just a few sharp lines, right? So this is the final result, at least on my end. So again, in part 3, let's go ahead and jump to the next stage where we can add more detail that kind of represents more of a suit instead of just the body. And I will see you guys next lesson, and I will give this model so you can follow me along. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.